Okay, so it's the week of the first test, which means Lions team predictions and squad predictions are going to be coming thick and fast. And this week, it's all about the first test. So what I'm going to do is in this video, I'm going to predict who I think Andy Farrell is going to pick as his 23 for the first test. And then tomorrow, I'm going to do the 23 that I would select for the first test. And this is based all around where players were before they came into the tour. There'll be some consideration for form. There's also going to be consideration around players who are injured because that is going to impact on who is selected. So I'm going to run through the 23 that I think Andy Farrell is going to name for the first test in Brisbane. So in the front row, I think that Farrell is going to name Genge at loosehead, Sheehan at 2 and Furlong at tight head. And I think out of those three, I'd say Sheehan, I would say is the most concrete out of all of them. I think the vast majority of people would assume that Dan Sheehan is going to start. It's going to be Sheehan, Kelleher, one way round or the other because of the head knock that Luke Cowan-Dickie took. But I think Genge has got himself in there on form, largely. And Furlong, you could make a case for any of the three tight heads starting, but Furlong has that bank of credibility behind him. And if he's anywhere near his best, I think he is the front runner. So I'm going to say it's Genge and Furlong that Farrell will start in the first test. The second row half picks itself because Maro Itoje is captain. He will start in the 4 shirt. In the 5 shirt is another player who I think has played himself into the test shirt, and I think he will start as the number 5, and that is the man who was man of the match against, I think, Western Force, which is Joe McCarthy. McCarthy is a great player. If you'd have asked most people at the start of the tour, is he likely to start in the second row? I'm not sure it would have been a name that would have been roundly given back to you. I think a lot of cases for Chesham would have been made. Tyke Byrne especially would have been made. But McCarthy, I think, will get the start in the second row alongside Maro Itoje. And the back row, now this is a tough one. I think Farrell will go one of 2 ways here. And my prediction is that I think he will go with Ollie Chesham at 6 because the line-out functions just so much better when he is in there. And when they go to shorter line-outs, having Chesham, Itoje, McCarthy with Genge at the front is making a huge difference. And the line-out just has to function to beat Australia. I don't think it's line-out is not sort of an area of huge strength the way it is for South Africa for Australia. So I think that Farrell will name Chesham at 6. At 7, you could make a case for any of them here, but I think sort of due to form, I think he will go with Josh van der Flier. And I'm not saying that it's the right call. I'm also not saying it's the wrong call. I know a lot of people will be saying Jack Morgan. People will also be saying Tom Curry. Some people will say Josh van der Flier, but I think Farrell will go with what he knows, tried and tested at 7, and I think he will go van der Flier to start. And at number 8, I think it will be Jack Conan, because he won't go for that sort of Pollock or Earl mould there. I think he will go with Jack Conan at 8, who is sort of like, you know, big dad figure there, run it back, do all the abrasive, horrible stuff. So yeah, that is the pack that I think Andy Farrell is going to pick. 9, 10, I don't think this will surprise anyone. I think he's going to go Jamison, Gibson Park and Finn Russell. It's been, I think, quite clear in some of the games that he's had teams selected for already. He's had Gibson Park and Russell together. I don't think there's a huge amount of competition around either position, maybe a bit at 9 with Alex Mitchell, but Gibson Park Russell I think is the pairing that we will see out there. I suspect that Russell may be out there for the full 80 at 10 as well, unless there's an injury. I don't know that for certain. It depends what he wants to do, but Gibson Park Russell are the halfbacks I think that Farrell will pick. In the centres, I think this is more of a talking point until Ringrose was ruled out of the first test, and I think Farrell will go for the centres that I think that most people will select. So I think he will go with Sione Tuipulotu at 12, and I think he will go with Hugh Jones at 13. So 13 sort of picks itself with Ringrose being out. Tuipulotu, I think, has been the form. 12, I can't see Aki starting with Jones, so I think it's going to be the Scottish centres that Farrell will pick for the first test. And the back three is a funny one. I think on the left wing, he's going to go with James Lowe, and I think most people would pick James Lowe. He can kick off both feet. He's a super dynamic winger. I don't think that Van der Merwe has had the best tour so far. I know he scored a hat-trick last week, but it was a bit of a run-in, really, for the hat-trick. I think Lowe will be the starting left winger. I think that at full-back it will be Hugo Keenan. I'm not sure where Kinghorn is with his injury, to be fair, but Keenan looked good last week. I know it was a 48-0 win, but Hugo Keenan did look good. I think he'll start the first test. And on the right wing, I don't know. It's a bit of a toss-up between Freeman and Hansen, but I think Farrell will go Hansen. There's been a couple of times when he's picked teams that look like test teams, and I've sort of looked and been like, oh, Hansen's in there, though. But I think he's looked quite mixed on this tour, Mac Hansen, but Farrell likes him. And I think that he will start him. I can't say that for certain, but I think he'll start Hansen on the wing. And for the bench, I think the replacement front row is going to be Ronan Kelleher. I think it'll be Andrew Porter at loosehead. I think most people would agree with them. And then at tight head, I reckon he'll go with Finlay Bealham, because Bealham does quite a lot around the park. I think he balances well with Porter, who's that real like big scrummaging unit, similar to how like Furlong balances well with Genge. I think Porter balances well with Bealham, so I think he will probably go Kelleher, Porter, Bealham as the sub front row. Because I've suggested that he's going to start Chesham at 6, and if he does start Chesham at 6, I think he can go with 2 back rowers on the bench. If he doesn't go Chesham at 6, I think he'll go Curry at 6, but there hasn't been a huge amount really to suggest recently that he's going to do that. But I think the 2 back rows he's going to put on the bench, I think one will be Jack Morgan, and I think the other one's going to be Ben Earl, who I think has played himself in through form. I don't think Henry Pollock is going to be selected for the first test. I couldn't tell you that for certain, but I think that Morgan will be the 19. I think Ben Earl will be number 20. And Ben Earl can play centre, but I don't think that it's going to be a 6-2 with Ben Earl being selected as someone who can cover there. I think there will be 3 backs on the bench. I think the 9 will be Alex Mitchell. Ben White looked good last week, but brought in mid-tour. Mitchell's played loads of minutes. I think Mitchell's going to be coming off the bench. I think the replacement 22 will be Marcus Smith. I think his versatility will get him there over Finn Smith, because he can play 10 and he can play 15. And the 23 shirt, which I think most people would roundly have said was Elliot Daly's until he got injured. Blair Kinghorn, I think, is still injured. I don't know how fit he'll be ahead of the first test. I think Tommy Freeman will get the 23 shirt. There you have it. That is the 23 that I think Andy Farrell will go with for Saturday's game in Brisbane. I'm really intrigued to see how close I am to it. I don't know how close it will be, to be honest, because Farrell could sort of pick anyone at any point and have a really strong Lions team. But yeah, that's who I've gone with. That's who I think he's going to pick. And keep your eyes peeled for the video of the 23 that I would pick, which will be coming out tomorrow.